What's good? Zach Pase, K Pasa, Wagwan, and all that good stuff. I am Miss McAnomaly. Welcome to my channel. And today I'm finna talk about this whole Nick Cannon situation. So, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, or y'all who follow me on Twitter, y'all know exactly where I stand. And I'm just gonna let y'all know I'm gonna hurt some feelings today. So if you easily get triggered by certain discussions, if you feel in your heart of hearts that whatever I'm saying is about to be racist, then this ain't for you. For those of y'all who are going to mass dislike this video, I got a message for all y'all.
You mother all of y'all. All of y'all.
That's right. Yes.
You. All of y'all.
Take none of that
Exactly. So Nick Cannon was on his show along with Professor Griff. And for those of y'all who don't know, Professor Griff is a rapper from the group Public Enemy. Now, Nick Cannon made some interesting remarks. I'm gonna play this clip right here. Check it out.
Well, let's go to what it really is then. When we talk about the power of melanated people, when we talk about who we really are as guys, and understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So then when you see what Dr. Francis C. Welsing talked about is that fear and that
genetic annihilation,
that deficiency of when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul. That we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less, and where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. And then they built up such this I don't want to say warrior, but they built up such this conquering barbaric mentality that they're coming out of Europe. They then said, in order for us to survive, we have to take what's not ours. And then they went into the land that actually where we are originated. And instead of trying to make friends, they said, we want what you got. Because there's this mentality of whether it's the Caesars or even that we have to conquer.
Right.
So I say all that to say the context, and when we speak of whether it's Jewish people, white people, Europeans, the Illuminati, they were doing that as survival tactics to stay on this planet.
Right, because
we never had to do that.
Right, because they've learned when they circumnavigated the globe and they ran into these islands and these places, and we were already there to greet them.
Right, with open arms.
With open arms, teaching them, but they
were deficient.
They were deficient, so they wanted to get what they thought we had, and we did have it. So the rape took place of the woman. The theft took place of the natural resources.
And then that's when their disease.
Exactly.
That's where their mentality, because I'm trying to get to that place of how they were able to get control over the gods. How they were able to get control over their original.
Okay, so once they learned that, though, and now they raped and impregnated, left and came back, and they saw the child lighter, they said, wow, That's when they
This
learned
is how
genetics. Genetic annihilation. So now you have to set up a system of white supremacy to control that.
Right.
So now we have 13 families here, Illuminati that's manipulating and controlling. Subgroups. Now we got to set up organizations.
Coming out of Europe.
You understand what I'm saying? And for that same system, now you're talking about survival, what you just laid out. Now it's fight or flight. Now we have to set up these systems in order to survive.
Right.
But listen, not just survive to get some damn some hamburger buns and some cheese. I'm talking about on a genetic level.
On the genetic, because they will, and that's even from the white nationalists to the white supremacy mentalities to Donald Trump himself wanting to build walls.
Right.
They're trying to keep their what they consider purity.
Exactly, on a subconscious
trying to stay
level.
alive.
Because sometimes they don't know why they acting out.
It's just been proven. Was National Geographic just put it out by 2050? Every person will be a person of color.
In a minute.
Now, they saying that's as soon as 2050.
Okay, so y'all heard what Nick Cannon had to say. Now, what Nick Cannon said, in my opinion, told no lies. And the reason why I said he told no lies is because, one, he said the original Semites were black. The media deemed it as anti-Semitic. And Nick was like, well, how can one be anti-Semitic when they are Semite? Now, if you actually open the Bible in the book of Revelations, you would know that Jesus is described as having bronze-skinned, feet of clay, and woolly hair. That alone tells you that Jesus was a Semite and that he's black. Because we all know that Jesus is Jewish. You know, Jesus is Jewish by lineage. So when he was talking about Semites, he wasn't talking about Ashkenazi Jews. And when he called white people savages, I mean, throughout history, they were savages. Let's be honest. From enslaving Africans and bringing them to this country, not even just this country, but the Caribbean, also enslaving Africans in their own native land. Then you had the genocide of indigenous people. Then what they did to the Hispanics. They colonized their land. So, obviously, if the Louboutin fits, rock that sucker. Because he obviously wasn't talking about all white people. Now, I find it funny how a certain demographic of people will call in Nick Cannon anti-Semitic and anti-white and racist. Now, these are the same people who complain about protesters knocking down Confederate statues and saying that's history. Since when was treason history? The fact that black folk have to wake up to see something so traumatizing, because a lot of black people deal with generational PTSD. The fact that we have to see a Confederate flag or a Confederate statue, or even not even just Confederates, but just racist on our currency, is alarming to us, and it's disheartening. And y'all technically erase history by making Jesus white, when it clearly says in the Bible that he had bronze skin, woolly hair, and feet of clay. So I'm just trying to figure out what Nick Cannon said, like, racist. Now, the fact that Viacom tried to cancel him, I hope he's like Dave Chappelle and he becomes uncancelable, if that's a word. And they took Wildin' Out off the TV and they replaced it with Fresh Prince of Entanglement. I mean, Bel-Air. And I love the fact that the cast from Wildin' Out had Nick Cannon's back, from Tyler Chronicles to Darren Big Baby Brand and Chico Bean and Carlos Miller, DC Young Fly, Emmanuel Hudson, Cortez Macklin, Little JJ, they all had Nick Cannon's back and said that what he said was not wrong throughout history. How many times has black people ever told people that the educational system sucks and the aspects of history? Why do you think HBCUs were created? You know what I'm saying? So, on top of that, he had freaking Professor Griff on the show. If anyone knows anything about Professor Griff, he was a part of Public Enemy, like I stated before, along with Chuck D and Flavor Flav. The stuff that Public Enemy talks about, they've been talking about the same thing Nick Cannon just said in his music ever since Nick was a child, since the 80s. So, for those of y'all who are new to this, he was talking to freaking Professor Griff, of all people. Of course he's gonna say something like that. And obviously Professor Griff is gonna agree. So what makes you think that Nick Cannon won't talk about stuff like that? He's been talking about stuff like that for years. So on top of that, the anti-Semitic thing, what Nick Cannon said was anti-Semitic, let me tell you something. I'm from New York. I grew up in an area where there's consists of immigrants, meaning black people from the Caribbean and Latin America, and Ashkenazi Jews. Now, I want to make something very, very clear. I know there's going to be a handful of Jewish people watching, But obviously, if the shoe fits, if the Louboutin fits, rock that sucker. Okay? If you are not one of those people that I'm talking about, you shouldn't bring up anything in my comment section.
Well, you're anti-Semitic. You're X, Y, and Z.
I do not care. Okay? Let me tell you something. I just said I'm from New York. Anyone from the New York metro area can attest to this. Whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's Rockland County, which is where I'm from, hence the shirts. Okay? Whether it's Westchester County. Okay? I'm talking about a specific demographic of Jewish people. I'm not talking about Reform Jews. I'm talking about the Hasidics, the ultra-Orthodox Jews. If anyone doesn't know anything about them, a lot of them have their own businesses and their own everything, pretty much. They have their own hospitals, their own police companies, their own ambulance, their own stores, daycares, bus depots. So a lot of these Jews are balling. I also want y'all to know that a lot of these Hasidic Jews, I'm talking about Hasidic Jews, okay? I'm very aware that there's a handful of other Jewish people who don't rock with black people. Let me tell you something. A lot of them are the most racist, disgusting, despicable people I have ever came across. Like, if you go into one of their stores, unless you're a worker, even if you're a worker, but most likely if you're not a worker, if you go into one of their shops, they finna look at you like you got some doo-doo on your forehead. Cause I remember when I was a child, I wanted to see what it was like in a Jewish grocery store. So I went to this Jewish grocery store with a little afro on my head. And all these people were looking at me like I got some sort of egg on my forehead or something, as if they never seen a black person before. I'm like, why they look at me like this? Like, y'all ain't never seen a black person before? Geez, I sound like Eminem. But on a serious note,
where I'm trying to get at is they're gentrifying the area. This area wasn't like this before. A lot of immigrants lived there before the Jewish people came. And a lot of white people actually lived there before the immigrants came. Like, there was a massive influx of Haitians coming in the 1980s of wherever I live at. And maybe around the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of Hispanics came. And a lot of the Hasidic Jews bait these immigrants into selling their homes and knocking down their homes so they could build their own. And a lot of these Hispanics, mind you, are vagabonds. A lot of them are immigrants and they have no stable address. A lot of the Haitian immigrants that I live near, they came here legally. They came here with all the paperwork and everything. It's mostly the Hispanic immigrants that don't file the paperwork, and a lot of them are vagabonds. So a lot of the Jewish people take advantage of them by using them, and a lot of them get paid by the Jewish people because they don't have a stable address. And before y'all call me anti-Semitic, let me tell you something. I know a lot of non-Hasidic Jews that will totally agree with me, okay? Because I'm telling you, it's not every single Jewish person that comes off this way.
And I stand by everything that Ken said, okay? If you're gonna call Nick Cannon racist and anti-Semitic, you clearly don't know your friggin' history, okay? So, on top of that, I want y'all to understand something. Black people do not have the monetary means, the means in general, to perpetuate supremacy. A lot of people were calling Nick Cannon a black supremacist. Now, I want to make something very clear to y'all. Do I believe black people can be racist? Technically, yes. Textbook definition. Because the definition of racism is literally anyone who feels that their race is more superior. Now, black supremacy, in my opinion, does not exist. You know why black supremacy does not exist? Because a lot of black people say black people cannot be racist because they don't have the power and the wherewithal to be racist. Now, I wouldn't say that is necessarily racism. It is a form of racism. Black people cannot be systemically racist. They're racist. They cannot be systemically racist. They can be textbook definition racist, but they cannot execute power or wherewithal. Because first of all, y'all don't even want to give us reparations. If you gave us reparations, that would not only help the black community, but that would help America as a whole. Because you're bridging the wealth gap and you people refuse to see it that way. Jewish people get reparations from multiple countries, okay? White people, the descendants of the ancestors, get reparations. Black people trying to get reparations is like, oh, you want a handout. Natives get reparations, Japanese get reparations, but all of a sudden, we're racist, we're supremacists because we said X, Y, and Z. Now, black people cannot be supremacists. Textbook definition of racist, yes. Institutionally racist? Abso-freaking-lutely not. They don't hold any sorts of monetary means, any sorts of political means to carry out such ideology. You could think it all you want to. You could think that black people are superior all you want to. But the fact of the matter is, they don't have the wherewithal, the power, the money. In the words of Little Kim, money is power. We don't have that. Unless you're a freaking Oprah or Michael Jordan or even Nick Cannon, that's not the average black person. The average black person does not make the money to cancel people. And Viacom, y'all are trash. From buying BET, for making Nickelodeon freaking corny, for not playing music on MTV, for VH1 not playing music videos, okay? And this is why a lot of us don't watch mainstream TV anymore, okay? Cause y'all are freaking trash. Nick Cannon, you better snap the frick back. You better snap back, okay? Cause you got enough money where you could snap back, okay? Talk to Tyler Perry, cause I know Wildin' Out was recorded in Tyler Perry Studios. Talk to Tyler Perry. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody, okay? You have enough wherewithal where you can have your own network. You could do whatever you want, Nick Cannon, okay? Because Wildin' Out, let me tell you something. Wildin' Out has been on the air since 2005. I was fresh out of kindergarten when Wildin' Out came on TV. And Nick Cannon put so many people on. Regardless of race, Nick Cannon put so many people on. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. He has helped so many people. And I always hated when people call Nick Cannon corny. Except for the time he tried to come after Eminem. That was very corny. Nick, you should have just stayed in your place. But other than that, Nick Cannon has helped so many people. And it's just so sad that y'all try to cancel him because of what he said. And what he said was the absolute truth. The fact of the matter is, I feel like white America is threatened by black history. Because our history is not taught the way it should be. And the fact that we have to have a class, a specific class called African American history over world history or United States history is just so sad. That we have to deal with this because it's just so disheartening. Y'all don't understand. Like I said earlier, black people go through generational PTSD. Even though we didn't experience it ourselves, the history behind it is absolutely traumatizing. So the moral of the story is this. If y'all finna cancel Nick Cannon and call out Nick Cannon for the things that he said, I want y'all to understand something. You better keep the same energy for those same white people, Jewish or not, that says anti-black stuff. Okay? Y'all not gonna take Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel's TV show down because of their past remarks with blackface. Y'all still have them in power. They still have their TV shows. Y'all not gonna cancel Mark Wahlberg for the hate crime he did back in 1988, are you? No. But you finna cancel Nick Cannon because of what he said. I hope Nick Cannon's at the level of a Dave Chappelle where you can't cancel him.
Okay, so update y'all. Nicholas backpedaled. So I'm gonna read y'all what Nicholas said. And he said this right here. First and foremost, I extend my deepest and most sincere apologies to my Jewish sisters and brothers for the hurtful and divisive words that came out of my mouth during my interview with Richard Griffin. They reinforce the worst stereotypes of a proud and magnificent people, and I feel ashamed of the uniformed and naive place that these words came from. The video of this interview has since been removed. While the Jewish experience encompasses more than 5,000 years, and there is so much I have yet to learn, I have had at least a minor history lesson over the past few days, and to say that it is eye-opening would be a vast understatement. I want to express my gratitude to the rabbis, community leaders, and institutions who reached out to me to help enlighten me instead of chastising me. I want to assure my Jewish friends, new and old, that this is only the beginning of my education. I am committed to deeper connections, more profound learning, and strengthening the bond between our two cultures today and every day going forward. Now, I know that Nicholas, Mr. Cannon, is about his corporate bag. I respect that. But at the same time, even though I don't have a corporate backing or anything like that, I'm not making money like Nick Cannon is, I personally would not apologize. And the reason why I would not apologize is because one, I told you about my story about growing up around Jewish people, specifically Hasidic Jews, and how rude they are towards non-Hasidics. Even some of the Jewish people that they don't recognize, some of them don't recognize non-Hasidic Jewish people as Jewish people. This is just a factual statement because I've been told this by several Ashkenazi Jewish people. And on top of that, these are the same group of people who are very corporate, who have the higher ups in the corporate America, who have the higher ups in the entertainment industry. These are the same people who own Viacom and record labels like Atlantic. And a lot of, I want people to see it this way, specifically the black community. Okay, I have to call y'all out. I love y'all to death, but come on, I have to call y'all out. So these are the same group of people who allow black people to perpetuate the worst of the worst stereotypes through movies and through music. Okay, from allowing black people to say the N-word and saying it's a term of endearment, to allow the B word to be said as a quote-unquote term of endearment. And I'll do a video on that because I do feel strongly against those words because it's disparaging and disgusting. But if you call them by their slurs, if you call them that word that rhymes with like and starts with a K, it's over. They did that to Michael Jackson. They would never allow any other group of people to disrespect them, but for some odd reason, it's okay for black people to be disrespected by these group of people. And I feel some type of way about him apologizing. Like, I understand he wants his corporate bag, but at the same time, I'm like, yo, they would never apologize to us. How many times have I heard Jewish people say black people don't deserve reparations, but these are the same people who get reparations everywhere. Okay? So I want black people to put this into perspective. While you're over here upset at Viacom, which you have every single right to be, I want us to look into our community and ourselves. And I'm not saying this to bash my community. And I know there's going to be some black people saying, "Oh, well, you're saying a different argument." First of all, this we have to get to the root of the problem. We have to call these people out and say, "Hey, we're not going to take your BS no more." You know what I'm saying? So first of all, we have to look at ourselves as a community and see what they allowed us to do to ourselves. So I'm not saying this is for all Jewish people who did this to the black community, but the percentage of Jewish people who did this, screw all of y'all. Screw all of y'all. I don't respect people who want to make a mockery of my community. And that's why a lot of other races make a mockery, because y'all allowed it. I'm not saying all of y'all, but a hurt dog will holler.
That's the end of this video. Like the old folks said, show some sign, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, even though YouTube's trash and notifications, but hit the bell anyways, so y'all know when I make another video. And I'm out, yeah. Bye.
Me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself, because nobody's going to take responsibility for you. You roll in your eyes and you act like this because you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before. You don't know where the hell I come from. You have no idea what I've been through. But I'm not a victim. I grow from it and I learn. Take responsibility for yourself.
Thank you.